LP2000 right back at you with another video. Yes, welcome back to Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews on behalf of Summit Kaiju, and I'm your host Leslie P. Chambers, and today we're taking a look at another great X-Plus figure release. Yes. Not exactly one of my most favorite Kaijus in the entire Godzilla film franchise, but this is such a great collectible and figure release all the same from X-Plus. And today we're taking a look at the X-Plus 30cm Fire Rodan Ric Exclusive Edition, based off the Kaiju's appearance in the 1993 Heisei Godzilla film, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, or Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, wherever the heck you want to call it. Yes, it's from that film. And this is such a great release. Yes, it is. It took me a while to get to this guy, but you know what? I've been on a Heisei type of mood lately. So I figured, since we already at the time of this recording, it is April the 23rd, 2019, and we're on the cusp on getting another gigantic Heisei release from X-Plus, and I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I figured, since we already got this guy coming, I figured, you know what, let me show some love to this Kaiju right here. Do things right here. Let's get into the box before we get into the figure. And this is the box. Pretty much just a simple cardboard box of the silhouette of Rodan, the Fire Rodan, 30cm version. And that's pretty much it. Very simplistic with the box, and that's pretty much it. Nothing extravagant, so eventually it's probably going to be trash because it doesn't have the stunning artwork that we normally associate with 30cm figures, but it is what it is. So yes, this is the 30cm Fire Rodan Ric Exclusive Edition from X-Plus. Let me give a huge shout out and thank you to Tyler Boots Carlson for helping me get this figure. I really do appreciate it. Here's the backstory with this figure. The first time we ever saw pictures of this figure, I think it was late September. It just all of a sudden appeared on the X-Plus Ric Board site, along with the 25cm Godzilla 1965, the Flying King Ghidorah 1968, and the Destroyer All Monsters entire 25cm box release that they were going to release towards the tail end of last year. And without hesitation, I went ahead and got this figure. Once again, this is not... I make no bones about the fact that this is like my least favorite version of Rodan. And I'll detail that later on towards the tail end of the video in my commentary portion of the video. But as far as a collectible standpoint, I had to have this figure, because it's one more Heisei figure that they have not gotten to yet. And I was like, you know what, it does look good, and the price was looking good also. So I hit up Tyler and asked him to order one for me, and here he is. It originally was going to drop in November, but it got pushed back to December. Yes, December. And if you remember what happened last year in December 2018, oh man, they tried to kill us during the last 2 weeks of that year. Because with this being pushed back, I remember that this thing got released alongside the 30cm Godzilla 1967, the 30cm Yuji Sakai Closed Mouth 1989 Godzilla, the 25cm Gamma 1999, the Gigantic Series Ultraman Jack, or the Return of Ultraman. Maybe I'm missing a couple, but man, all that happened within like a short span of 2 weeks around the holiday season. And then a week later after that, they released the Flying King Ghidorah 1968, as well as the entire Destroyer Monster 25cm box set that I talked about earlier. So all that happened, all those figures got released right smack dab in the middle of Christmas. Like the Fire Rodan and everything else got released like, say, December 21st, something like that. And the rest of the stuff, the Flying King Ghidorah and the Destroyer Monsters, got released like a week later. So if you had a whole bunch of pre-orders on top of stuff that you needed to get for your family for December, yeah, that was really a trying time. It really was. But we made it through. It's not the first time X-Plus has done something like this, where they have brought out so many different figure releases all within like a small time period. But looking back on it now, I'm really glad that I really did get this piece. It is a stunning piece. X-Plus has done a fantastic job with this guy, which you'll see up close and personal later on. But when I saw this up for pre-order in September, it made me question, why would they decide to do this? Fire Rodan. You know what I mean? You would think that maybe they would have done what they did with Mechagodzilla in 1993. I think in 2017, I believe, when he got released. I think it was 2017. Because remember, with Mechagodzilla 1993, they released the standard as just Mechagodzilla himself, and the Ric was him as Super Mechagodzilla. So I was thinking if they were going to do something like Rodan from the Heisei period, they probably would have done regular Rodan, the brown-looking, brown color scheme Rodan as the standard, and have the Ric as the Fire Rodan, which is basically what it is right now. That way, it would have forced collectors to double dip. Cause I know a lot of folks did double dip on the Mechagodzilla. Some folks got both the standard and the Ric, the Super Mechagodzilla. So I thought maybe X Plus was gonna do something like this with Rodan, but this, like I said, just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And I think the reason why they did this was just to test the waters, to see if there would be enough interest in this version of Rodan. Cause I know there's a lot of folks that really do like this Rodan. I think the majority of Godzilla fans, especially the Showa purists, stuff like that, we prefer the Showa version, the 56 and or the 64. This one is not really talked about that much, at least from my eyes. Even though I know there are some people, maybe a lot of people, that do love this version of Rodan, even more so than the Showa, even more so than the Millennium. But I think X Plus did this just to test the waters, just to see if there'll be enough interest for them to go after this again. Because I can see them going after this sculpt again and releasing, you know, the original Rodan, the brown color scheme Rodan. And, you know, from a money-making standpoint, they stand to make more money going in that route than doing what I suggested just now, where, you know, they have the brown as the standard and this Fire Rodan as the Ric. If they go back to this, you know, they have a chance to make more money, you know, by having a brown Rodan, you know, a brown original Rodan, and have like a Ric version of that come with maybe like a mini baby Godzilla or something like that from the film. But I think with them trying to test the waters with this release and trying to gauge people's interest, I think they did a great job, you know. So that's pretty much it with the backstory involving me owning this figure, and this really is a great piece. And what also was so appealing for me, or want to get this piece, that this actually is the first Rodan, believe it or not, in his flying position. All the Rodans that they have released prior to this release, with the exception of maybe the mini replica of the 56 Rodan that came out with the Ric last year. There was a mini replica of the flying Rodan from the 56 movie that came with the 25cm re-release of the 56 Rodan. But aside from that, this is the first in-scale 30cm figure of Rodan in his flying pose. And I find that very, very ironic and very, very funny that it took this long for us to get a flying Rodan in this sculpt or in this pose. You know, we've seen Mothra in her flying pose. We got like a flying King Ghidorah. Even Gyra, you know, Gyra from the recently new 25cm set from the War of the Gargantuas. Even him is like in a mid-air pose, you know. But Rodan, up until this point, has not been given a flying sculpt of a vinyl figure, you know? And that's kind of ironic, since he was the first flying kaiju from Toho Studios. Before Mothra, before King Ghidorah, before Varan, before Batra, before all these flying kaijus, he has not been given a flying sculpt of a vinyl figure from X Plus until now. And I'm glad that they finally have gone to this. I hope they will revisit this at some point. Whether they do, like I said, come out with the original 93 Rodan in a brown color paint scheme, or maybe they can revisit, you know, the 56 in a 30cm form in its flying form. I don't really care for the 25cm 56 with him standing like that. I just don't really like that version of Rodan. But if they were to go back to that sculpt in a flying version, I would be all over that. I really would. But once again, this is a great, 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 great piece. X Plus has done a phenomenal job with this. But don't take my word for it. Let's get up close and personal with this guy right now. The X Plus 30cm Fire Rodan Ric Exclusive Edition, from its appearance from the 1993 Godzilla Heisei film, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. So let's go to up close and personal right now. Okay, folks, here we are up close and personal with the 30cm Fire Rodan Ric Exclusive Edition from X Plus, based off the Kaiju's appearance from the 1993 Heisei Godzilla film. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and as you can see, he looks so good up close and personal. Before we go into detail with this guy, let's go with the stand here. which I have noticed some folks who did get this figure kind of complain about. It's kind of plain looking and blah, blah, blah. But what you need to do if you get this figure, it comes with like two pegs right here, two platform pegs right here and right here. And it comes with a platform base where you have to join the bases together. Kind of like the Flying King Ghidorah 1968. If you saw my video, it's kind of similar to that. The base is not as big or as bulky as the King Ghidorah. But the platforms, you know, even though it may give some folks pause, I think it works for this setup right here, especially for this version of Rodan. So what you need to do, you need to take these cradles here, put them on top of the poles right here, and just place Rodan right here at the base of his wings, where his wings meets his abdomen right here, you know, and do the same thing on the other side. And so far, I haven't had any issues with this guy. I had this figure for at least 2 or 3 months, and I haven't had any issues of him falling down. His wings have not drooped or anything like that. Now, of course, you know, the weather is starting to change here in North Carolina to more for warm weather. So you know, it may change. I really don't think so, because the wings were constructed really well. The material was constructed really well, and I don't see any drooping issues with this like we have seen with past Rodans. But once again, this is such an amazing figure, and I'm glad that we finally got a Rodan in the flying pose. Like I said, of all the kaijus that they have done, you would think they would have done this already, you know, since he was the first flying kaiju. Maybe not this version, mind you, but still, as far as a kaiju, Rodan was the first flying kaiju from Toho Studios. But the paint job is amazing. The red all over his body, you know, there's variations of reds here and there. Like right here, like on his hands or his claws, and on top of his wings right here. Now, as far as these lines right here, I think these are pretty much like veins in his wings, you know, in the membrane of his wings. So that looks really good. Also, the spikes here on his chest right here, you know, which is typical Rodan. You know, that's like one of the most noticeable attributes when it comes to Rodan. You know, his chest. You know, those spikes protruding from his chest. So that looks really, really good. The face looks awesome too. You know, his beak is open, his mouth is open. You know, the teeth are individually sculpted. You know, has some great color when it comes to his tongue, the inside of his mouth. You know, looks really, really, really good. On the top of his head, you know, he has those horns, as well on the back of his on his back. You know, he has those spikes protruding off his back. And those are made out of translucent material, no different than, you know, Varan. You know, the spikes off of Varan, where it's the 25 centimeter, the 30, or the Favorite Sculptor's line. They have those translucent spines on Varan's back. So they did the same thing here with Rodan, Fire Rodan, excuse me, where you can shine some light right through it, which is kind of reminiscent of the film, because remember when Fire Rodan did transform. When Rodan did transform into Fire Rodan, he does have that ability to shoot fire, kind of like Godzilla. And whenever it does happen, his spikes on the top of his head kind of lights up, kind of like Godzilla's dorsal plate lights up before he discharges his beam. So you can actually shine a light through this, you know, on his horns, and it looks really, really, really good. The claws, like I said, on his wings look really, really good. His feet look really, really good. The tail is protruding outwards, you know. They have done such a great job with this release. You know, it really does speak for itself. And this is kind of like a Megara release for me, as far as last year. And truth be told, Megara was never really one of my favorite kaiju characters either. But X-Plus, when they brought out the 30cm Megara last year, they did such a great job with that I was like, you know what, I got to have it. Even though I don't particularly care for the kaiju itself, or the mecha in that case itself, they did such a great job with that craftsmanship on the figure that I had to have it, you know, in my collection. The same thing here with Rodan, because once again, this is not my favorite incarnation of Rodan, but X-Plus has done a tremendous job with the color scheme, you know, the sculpt, the flying pose. They have done such a great job with this release that it made me do a 180 or 360 on me wanting to get this guy, you know. And the fact that it is a Ric exclusive, you know, makes it that much more special, you know. And once again, I think this was just something just to test the waters, to get people's interest, you know. And for what I saw, there were a lot of people that were interested in it, and there are a lot of people that did really get this figure. So hopefully at some point X-Plus will revisit this, you know, either the 93 version, whether it's his original brown paint scheme, or once again, maybe they can do another Rodan, preferably the original, the 56. That would be such a great sculpt to use, or a great monster to use, or version of Rodan to use for a flying position. Or how about the upcoming 2019 Rodan? That guy looks awesome too. Imagine him in this flying pose from X-Plus. So I think this was just something, like I said, just to gauge people's interest, to see where people will want this figure or not. And I think, this was such a great way to go. And I think we have not seen the last of Rodan from X-Plus in the flying position, Like I said, hopefully they can do the 56 or maybe the upcoming 2019. But trust me, they need to go back to this flying version of Rodan. Or maybe even a 64 or a 68, But I hope they're not done with Rodan in a flying position like this, because there's still money to be made with this guy, But once again, X-Plus done a great job with this Fire Rodan. Awesome. He really does look awesome. And like I said, the picture speaks for itself. He speaks for itself. And I could not be even happier of me getting this figure. Thank you so much, Tyler Boots Carlson, for making that happen. This is such a great release. It really is. So let's do two size comparisons, and we'll wrap up this review with my thoughts of Rodan in the film. And let me just say, I'm going to try and be as positive as I can. But once again, I have mentioned that this is not my favorite version of Rodan, but in the commentary portion of the video, I will explain why that is, why he's not my favorite. But at the same time, it was great to still add this guy to my collection, which is the point I've always tried to make in my videos. Just because you don't like a certain film character or the film that particular character was in, doesn't mean that you should deny yourself from getting a quality collectible piece. Unless you straight up hate the film or hate the character involving, said film, or vice versa. That I can understand why you may not want to go after a certain particular figure. If you straight up hate it, you don't like it, that's fine. But at the same time, I think that in my case, like I said, with this version of Rodan not being so high up in my ranking, still, this was a great investment for me to go into, despite my feelings on the character. And honestly, it has made me come around more so on the character. I kind of like this version of Rodan a little bit more now, based off of X-Plus. That has happened to me before. Like, I wasn't really a big fan of the Burning Godzilla design until I got my hands on the X-Plus Gigantic Series version. That made me come around. I just mentioned Mogera, the same thing. If X-Plus can do that for me involving Rodan, it can do it for you. So once again, a great piece, a great X-Plus collectible piece. X-Plus once again has done a phenomenal job with this guy. The sculpt, paint job, the platform apparatus to keep him in a midair position. Just a solid release, and I really hope that X-Plus go back to this sculpt, or go back to this to a flying version of Rodan in the future, because I think there's money to be made. Alright, so let's go with the first size comparison, and let's bring up the 25cm Rodan 1964, and let's see the classic mixed with the new. So let's go to that size comparison right now. Okay, folks, this is the first size comparison. Oh my god. Oh man, you know what? This is actually my first time putting these two together. And oh man, this is awesome. This is so righteous. Yes, we have both Rodans. Yes, yes, yes. The one on the left is obviously the iconic 25cm 1964 version of Rodan. My favorite version of Rodan, by the way. Alongside the 30cm Ric Exclusive edition of Fire Rodan. As you can see, like I said, a mixture of old meets the new. The old school meets the new school. Oh man, this is such a great size comparison. And that's another thing that I've seen folks really was hesitant when it came to this figure, which you'll see later on in the size comparison with Mechagodzilla as well as the 30cm Godzilla 1992. A lot of folks I don't want to say disappointed, but they were kind of iffy on the fact of this guy being 30cm, because he is kind of really too big in comparison to the other figures that you will see. Rodan was not that big in the film to begin with, so that gave some people pause about wanting to get this figure, because some people are OCD like that. But as you can see here, he is a good size, you know, and he does pair well with the 25cm Rodan 1964, you know, and it's just, once again, X-Plus has done a phenomenal job with basically all their Rodans, even the 56, which I don't particularly care for, but they have done a great job with their Rodan releases they have done thus far, you know. And as you see the evolution of Rodan from the Showa period into the Heisei period. You know, there's still traces of, you know, of the old Rodan in the new Rodan. You know, like I said, with the spikes protruding from his chest, you know, the wings being out there, you know, whatever. The claws on the top of his wings. Like I said, you know, they did provide some tweaks in the new design. Like I said, with the spikes on his back. Really, the Heisei Rodan kind of looks more like a Pteranodon, like a real life Pteranodon, or a real world Pteranodon, I should say / pterodactyl. But once again, this is such, oh man, like I said, this is my first time putting these two together, and they just look so great. They look so great. This is just a great evolution. All we need now is the final wars Rodan. And I'm so looking forward to that. Honestly, and that's another thing. When it comes to Rodan, honestly, I want them, and I mentioned this earlier, if they were going to go back to another Rodan, they need to do a 30cm 56 version or the upcoming 2019. I think between the two, because of the film coming up in the next month or so, I think we probably will get a 2019 Rodan before we get a 56 version, you know, because we don't have a 30cm version of the 56 Rodan. You know, we got a 25cm version, but when it comes to 64, we got both a 25cm and a 30cm version. So maybe they can do a 30cm version of the 56. If not, do a Faber Sculptor's Line version, a 30cm Faber Sculptor's Line version. Either way, I'm sure we have not seen the last of X-Plus doing Rodan in a flying pose like this. But yes, they look so great together. Yes, both Rodans, they look so awesome. I still prefer the 64, you know, at the end of the day, but at the same time, I'm really glad I picked up the Fire Rodan as well. I really am. Alright, so let's do one more size comparison. The last size comparison, I should say. And let's bring up the 30cm Mechagodzilla 1993 as well as the 30cm Godzilla 1992. And let's see how the monster lineup from that particular film from 1993 holds up. And let's go that size comparison right now. Okay, folks, this is the last size comparison, and alongside the minute and hour in the middle, yes, the 30cm Ric Exclusive edition of Fire Rodan, I have the 30cm Godzilla 1992 and the 30cm Mechagodzilla 1993, both standard editions. And as you can see, they look well together. Now, the odd man out of place is, of course, Godzilla, because this is not the Godzilla from the film. You know, it's from the previous film, Godzilla vs. Mothra. But I have said on numerous occasions that this version of Godzilla from X-Plus, the 30cm 1992 version, not the Sakai, but this version, this one actually comes across more as a 93. So until we get a proper 93, this will provide a great stand-in for as Godzilla. But the other two are directly from the movie, you know. I wish I would have got my hands on a Super Mechagodzilla, but at the same time, this effect still works with them being put together like this. And as you can see, I mentioned earlier that a lot of folks were kind of hung up on the idea of Rodan being too big. And as you can see here, he is somewhat too big for what he was in the film. Rodan was not this big in comparison to both Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, but at the same time, it's one of those situations where, you know what, these things do happen. Like, for example, the Godzilla 1975 30cm. That figure, in my opinion, is a little bit too big for what he should be. But he looks so great up against Mechagodzilla 1975, you know. There are certain situations where, you know, these figures are not going to be completely, perfectly accurate. Or like the 25cm 89 Godzilla up against the 25cm Biollante. You already know in the film, Biollante was twice as big as Godzilla. But when you see those two figures together, even though they look good, Godzilla is still, once again, too big in comparison to what he should be, as far as like size, accuracy purposes, according to the film. The same thing applies here, but at the same time, you can't tell me that these three don't look good together, because they do. You know, Rodan being too big, you know, may turn some people off, but to me, that's just a minor issue. It's very minuscule in the grand scheme of things, you know. So this is such a great setup. The only thing we're missing now is basically a baby Godzilla, or, you know, mini version of baby Godzilla. And that'll be it, you know. But once again, I see X-Plus going back to this sculpt. I see X-Plus going back to this sculpt of Rodan, like I said, with the brown color paint scheme. You know, make the Ric, like I said, make the standard just Rodan himself, and make the Ric come with a mini baby Godzilla, since they have somewhat of a connection in the film anyway. But until that happens, these three look great. Once again, this figure, this kaiju character of this version of Rodan is not up there with me, but with this figure release, it made me warm up to the character even more. And it kind of made me warm up to the film even more. Because truth be told, this is not one of my favorite Godzilla films either. But with this setup here, once again, it makes me more warm to the film, you know. But as you can see, they look great together. Both Mechagodzilla, Godzilla, and now finally we got, you know, the last remaining major monster from the film, Rodan, or in this case, Fire Rodan. This looks amazing. It really does look amazing. So that's it with the size comparisons. You know, once again, the Rodan that I showed earlier, you know, the 25cm 64 Rodan looks great alongside Fire Rodan here. Mechagodzilla and Godzilla does look great here too. Once again, just great job, X-Plus. Great job. You did such a great job with this release. And so let's finish off this review with my final thoughts of why I don't particularly care for this version of Rodan as far as a kaiju. I love the figure. I really do love the figure. But as far as the kaiju itself and his usage of him in the film really has rubbed me the wrong way. And I'll talk about that right now. Okay, folks, I'm back with my final thoughts of the X-Plus 30cm Fire Rodan Ric Exclusive Edition based off the Kaiju's appearance in 1993's Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. And I've mentioned throughout the video, and I make no bones about the fact that this is my least favorite version of Rodan. And even though this is my least favorite version of Rodan, I still maintain the philosophy and the idea that, you know, just because you don't particularly care for a certain kaiju shouldn't stop you from wanting to collect a certain quality collectible piece of that kaiju. And I'm living proof of that. Because even though this version of Rodan is not high up there with me, this figure was such an amazing release that I had to have my hands on it. That's how much X-Plus has convinced me to go after this piece, even though historically I have not been too fond of the kaiju itself, or at least this version of Rodan himself. But I think my disconnection with this version of Rodan is that he looks too much like a pterodactyl. He looks too much like a real-life dinosaur. And I know it's kind of a lame reason to dislike a kaiju. But what separates, let's say, Godzilla, Rodan, and Anguirus, even though they're based off of real-life dinosaurs, they still look so much dinosaurian, but they still have a different look that separates them from looking like real-life dinosaurs. They look like more like monsters, real-life monsters, which is the reason why we have gravitated toward these creatures in the first place, you know? But far as Rodan, when they decided to bring him back for the Heisei series, they gave him more of a traditional pterodactyl / pteranodon look. And maybe some folks like that. Maybe some folks like the real-life look of what Rodan would originally look like if Rodan really appeared in real life or existed in real life. You know, some folks like that. To me personally, I don't really particularly care for it. Aside from his look, which I'm not too high up on, I don't like his size. Even though, like I said early on, with this figure being really big, because he is a 30cm figure, he looks too big in comparison to Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, but in the film, he was way smaller. In fact, his battles with Godzilla and Mechagodzilla have him come across like the giant condor from Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, you know? And I guess the main reason why I feel this way towards Rodan as I do, especially this version of Rodan, because truth be told, Rodan is one of my most favorite monsters ever in the Toho franchise. And I feel that of all the monsters that they brought back in the Heisei period, I'm not talking about the Millennium series, let's focus just on the Heisei, okay? Of all the monsters that they brought back, because of Biollante not doing so well in the box office, which to this day I still don't understand. But after that film didn't perform so well in the box office, they decided to bring back old classic Godzilla foes or allies to bring back for the Heisei films. It started with King Ghidorah, then it transitioned to Mothra, then Mechagodzilla, and they brought back Rodan. And I feel out of all the monsters that they brought back or revamped, Rodan was the one that really got the short end of the stick. Now, when they brought back King Ghidorah, at least they did something different with him. You know, they gave him a different look. He looked more fierce. He looked more sleeker or sleeker. You know, they even brought him back as a mecha towards the tail end of the film. Even though I'm not too high up on his origin in that film, you know, I still have a hard time believing that those three small, cute little Dorats merged into King Ghidorah. But at least they did right by him as far as his design. Both of them, you know. So they did something interesting with King Ghidorah. Mothra, even though I don't particularly care for that film that much either, at least they did something different with Mothra. They gave her a more colorful look, even though some folks kind of compare her to like a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade float. But I love the look on Mothra. You know, he's very colorful. She's very colorful, you know, even more so than the Showa version. You know, and even though it has somewhat of a cartoony look, I like how they really incorporated more colors into Mothra, if that was even possible. On top of that, they gave her some powers where she can shoot some beams from her antennas. You know, they, in my opinion, they did right by Mothra. I still prefer the Showa version, but at least they did something right by her when they brought her back for the Heisei. Mechagodzilla, let's go to him. Now, even though my favorite is the Showa Mechagodzilla, at least they did right by Mechagodzilla by doing something different with him. This time, instead of Godzilla defending Japan against Mechagodzilla, this time the tables are turning. Mechagodzilla is being used to defend Japan against Godzilla. And even though that look is not high up on my list either, at least I appreciate what they tried to do with him by making him a super weapon that will fight for us instead of against us. But with Rodan, I don't know. I don't understand why they felt the need to bring Rodan back in this capacity. Because in my opinion, the way Rodan comes across in this film, it feels like that he just shoehorned in this film. And I feel for a Kaiju of Rodan's status, he deserved a lot better than that. Because when I look at the big five Kaijus, or at least the most popular Kaijus from Toho Studios, is Godzilla, Rodan, King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Mechagodzilla. Those five, in my opinion, are like the standard bearers when it comes to Toho's monsters. They're like the foundation of which they, you know, what Toho Studios built to bring more monsters into the fray. Of course, you know, the main reason why all these monsters are here is Godzilla. But truth be told, even though we love Godzilla as much as we do, he didn't do it alone. He had to have great supporting characters along with him to make Toho Studios what it is today. And I feel that Rodan, as well as King Ghidorah, Mothra, Mechagodzilla, deserve as much credit for making Toho Studios what it is today as Godzilla does, even though Godzilla is really the main reason why everything is in place the way it is today. But I felt in this film, Rodan just wasn't done any justice, and I felt that's a shame for a Kaiju of Rodan's caliber. And I guess if you really think about the film, you know, aside from his last act in the film, which, you know, he does sacrifice himself or transfer his last remaining energy into Godzilla, which thereby resurrected Godzilla, thereby brought about Mechagodzilla's destruction. Aside from that, in my opinion, if you take Rodan out of the rest of the film, does it really change the film that much? You know, like Godzilla still could have came to the island before the people was able, you know, to get the egg, you know, whatever, and they were able to get the egg away before Godzilla got there. You know, you didn't really have to need the battle with Rodan. You know, and the same thing at the end when Rodan, the Fire Rodan, I should say, fought Mechagodzilla. You still could have accomplished the same idea, which is to lure Godzilla to Mechagodzilla for Mechagodzilla to finish him off once for all. And I feel when you have that kind of storytelling, where it really doesn't matter where a certain kaiju or character appears or not appears, that, in my opinion, is weak storytelling. I just felt like for Rodan, in this case for Rodan, he deserved a whole lot better. He deserved a whole lot better. So with that being said, once again, this is not my favorite version of Rodan. Honestly, the film is not a favorite of mine. But I'll talk more about the film as a whole, because I am planning on doing an X-Plus setup video involving this figure, the 92 Godzilla 30cm from X-Plus, as well as Mechagodzilla from X-Plus. And I'm going to bring them all together and have an X-Plus setup video, and then I'll talk more about the movie as a whole. But my biggest disappointment, at least one of my biggest disappointments with this film, is the inclusion of Rodan and how he's used. Like I said, of all the monsters that they brought back in the Heisei period, I feel to this day, and I still feel to this day, that Rodan just got the shaft. He really did. Like, I would not use this film to sell you on becoming a Rodan fan, you know? But with that being said, with all that being said, I say that to say this. Just because it's not my favorite, just because the film is not my favorite, does not mean that it should stop me from wanting to collect a quality collectible piece. And that's something I advise other collectors out there to think about also when it comes to collecting pieces that you want or may not want, you know, because not every kaiju or every film is going to appeal to every Godzilla fan. I get that, but I don't want you to deny yourself a quality kaiju piece because you have a certain disdain for a certain character, or if the character is not too high up on your list. Unless you straight up hate the kaiju or hate the film and you can see yourself go without the figure or the collectible piece or whatever, that's one thing. But if not, try and give it a chance, you know. I'm living proof of that, you know. And honestly, I can see X-Plus going back to this sculpt, as I mentioned earlier, with, you know, a regular version of Rodan in a brown color paint scheme. And once again, maybe do a Ric version with a little mini baby Godzilla with him, you know. And X-Plus has done it before, where they have taken already existing sculpts and repackaged them and brought them back as alternate paint scheme versions of that same figure. The gigantic GMK comes to mind. Final Wars Guy, again, a 30cm, they have done that with that. Gamera, 1995, you know, they've done the same thing with that. Or Godzilla 2000, they've done the same thing with that. So I can see X-Plus going back to this scope to bring forth the regular edition of Rodan from the film. So if you missed out on this piece, maybe you can hope for that, or maybe they can bring back Rodan in a 30cm form from the 56 movie in this flying form. But I have a feeling we have not seen the last of Rodan in this flying form, and I hope X-Plus gets around to doing that. But aside from that, this is such a great piece. I'm glad I got it, despite my disdain of the character, or at least my lack of enthusiasm for the character. It's still a quality piece at the end of the day, and that's a testament to how great X-Plus is, that they have put so much effort and quality craftsmanship into this figure that it made me change my mind, and it made me come around on a kaiju that I've not been particularly too fond of, at least this version of this kaiju. And if X-Plus can do that because so much quality craftsmanship and great excellent work they put into a figure, man, X-Plus is the bomb. So once again, X-Plus, you deserve a round of applause from me for making this happen. And once again, if you can hear me, hopefully, please make more flying Rodans. We will buy them. We will get them, whether it's the 56, 64, or the upcoming awesome 2019 version. Please give us more Rodans. Plus, we will buy them, and I'm sure a lot of folks will not be disappointed. You know, so that pretty much concludes my review of the X-Plus 30cm Fire Rodan Ric Exclusive Edition, based off the Kaiju's appearance of the 1993 Godzilla film, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, or Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, wherever the heck you want to call it. So if you have any questions or comments, holler me down in the comment section, or hit me up on Facebook via Elizabeth Chambers. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, a great piece. I'm so glad I got it. Once again, thank you to Tyler Boots Carlson for making this happen. You know, this is really a great piece. Now, as far as him being out there or available, I don't know. I doubt it. If he is, you're going to spend $1 for him, a little bit more. Because he originally was like maybe $180. You know, came out maybe a $220 ship, something like that. And I assume if he's going to be out there in the aftermarket, he's going to be way up there in price. So maybe you can find one for a good price. I don't suggest you go overboard with the spending. Or once again, just wait until X-Plus, if and eventually will, make more flying Rodans. But if you want this Rodan, please go online, try to find one for a good price. Don't spend too much for it. And trust me, the pictures, the videos, everything, you know, does not do this figure justice. With the paint job, especially the sculpt, they have done a tremendous job with this figure. Once again, for a kaiju that has not been too high up on my list, it made me want to go after it. That's how great this figure is. And if you get it in your hand yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, so much stuff is still coming here on the channel. At the time of this recording, it is April the 24th, 2019. And the next time we will see each other, I will have a gigantic, the newest gigantic in my possession. And we will review that guy once he comes in the next 2 or 3 days. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. So stay tuned for that review. That will be the next review coming real soon. The newest gigantic. Yes, can't wait for that, guy. But until then, if you can get your hands on this figure, please get your hands on this figure. You will not be disappointed with the X-Plus 30cm Fire Rodan Ric Exclusive Edition from X-Plus. Alright? So I thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all again on next Figure Move review. Alright? Y'all take it easy.